Outside the Box, Second Take Podcast. Thank you for following us on Spotify. Today I have two awesome guests. The author and illustrator of the recently launched book, children's book, Granda's Dreamers, are here to share about their story and how they launched this project. Argelia and Anna Alvarado, thank you so much for being here on Outside the Box.
Oh my God, what an honor to be inside, outside the box. I've been following you guys, and I always see you guys on social media, OTB, but now we're inside, outside the box.
I like it in here. I like it.
Yeah, no, this is amazing for us. George and I obviously have been listening to you and Omar for so long, and Anna, obviously hearing about the artists behind all the artwork that I've seen at events. It's amazing to have you both in here. Huh, George?
Yep. I've seen that book. I want it. And you know why?
Why?
Because it has pictures.
And it's so funny. That's he's not joking. He really loves picture books. He doesn't like to read much, but this book is right up his alley.
Hey, tampoco. Don't make me sound illiterate over here.
But you know what? He's in for a nice treat because they're not just pictures. They're vivid, vibrant, colorful, bold, and beautiful pictures from Anna Alvarado.
It's amazing.
They're just her life, her world.
Yeah. Argelia, wife, mother, the voice of Los Angeles with Omar for so many years.
For 20 years. Can you believe it?
I can't. That means I'm old, right? Because I've been there with you. I've been there with you. So, but what I can tell you is obviously you're so busy. Anybody who watches and is looking at this and has been watching your story, how did you do it? You're so busy.
I don't know how I did it. You know what? The time was definitely not available for me when I started this project in 2018 because, I was waking up at 3:30 in the morning at the time trying to do a radio show with my husband, and then after the show, doing activities and engagements in the community, and then on top of that, picking up my girls every day after school because that was my commitment. I couldn't drop them off in the morning because I was at work, but I had to be there after school. And once I picked them up at school, I was mommy. I was mommy and I was wife, and I disconnected from work. So you're right. When did I write this book? How did I write this book? When I had to go to bed by 9 p.m., right? So I could wake up at 3:30. I had to sacrifice a lot of weekends. My weekends were gone. I couldn't spend more time with my family. I had to talk to them and tell them, this is what's going to happen. I'm writing a book because there's a need. But you need to understand this is for you, Camila. This is for you, Annabella. And it's for all the children of the world to see. But I'm going to have to need a few weekends away from going to the movies, going to parties, going bowling. And that's what happened. I had to do it during the weekends. And that's when I wouldn't sleep. Yeah, I sacrificed a lot of family time. But you know what? It was worth it. The girls got to see me work this book, literally.
That's amazing, because they're going to remember that.
They're always going to remember that. And then the pandemic came, and I had more time.
We all did, right?
We all did, right? Yeah. In the sense that I could sleep in a little bit more because I didn't have to go to the studio, which meant I got an extra hour. And that extra hour I maximized, and I gave it to the book.
Wow, that's amazing. You always hear the success story, but rarely do you hear the journey. I am a fan of your work. You're known as an artivist. Can you share with us a little bit about what you do and also how you impact the community through your work?
I like to say, I feel like I'm a visual storyteller. I really try to connect with people by sharing my story. I want it to be authentic every opportunity I have. So if I paint what inspires, I draw something that stirs me, I always think, how could I put it on a canvas, put it on a board? How could I put it out there in a way that the community will stop and say, wow, that's me, that feels like me? And I found that, which is what's personal, my story was one way to do that. So I always create something that is really within. So I always stand by what I'm creating.
It's amazing. How does Granda's Dreamers fit in with that mission?
One, I mean, the dreaming big is, we say this all the time. It's not that it's a massive thing. It's dreaming big is scary. This book, as beautiful as it is, It was, will people like it? Will people resonate with it? Will we do our trailblazers justice by telling their story, by creating the artwork? And so there's that other part of you that says, well, but just do it. Watch, the world is going to love it, and they're going to be accepting, and and you're going to have that favor. And so you go in and on this belief, this dreaming big, that the world will see it as a gift.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. So we know that 7.3% of authors are Latino. And when you're talking about female Latina authors, we know that's even less than that. Argelia, how does it feel to be a Latina author?
Oh my gosh, it's still crazy to hear. It's so surreal. The fact that I'm an author, I was considered an author when Omar and I, my husband, published our love story, Amor al Aire, which I know you guys have that book.
Yep.
In your house.
Yes.
But yes, that turned us into authors, and that felt nice. That felt very nice, But it wasn't as intense as writing Granda's Dreamers, because writing your story is easier, right, than paying homage and tribute to these 12 trailblazers. And for me to write and dig in and do them justice and correct the story as well, it's a lot of responsibility. But when I get introduced as a children's author, it blows my mind, because I don't feel that I deserve that yet. All I did was research with help of a researcher, which was my college professor, Dr. Rebecca Acevedo from Loyola Marymount University, who helped me a lot with the research. And I took those facts, and then, yes, I invested hundreds of hours watching documentaries and interviews on each trailblazer. And then I just sat and wrote, kind of like when you're in college and you're writing, reports and projects. It felt like that. But I didn't think that putting it all together would turn me into a children's author. But you know what? If that's what God wants it to be, then I will embrace that title He has given me, and that gives me more responsibility to raise that flag and say, yes, heck yeah, I'm one more Latina author on this planet.
It's amazing.
We need more.
Right. Trailblazers, right? I think you said it perfectly. The Trailblazer wrote a book about trailblazers. I think it's amazing. So what is one of your biggest consejitos para ese persona ahorita who's watching and wants to become an author? What's like the biggest thing you learned throughout this whole process?
Just get started. You have an idea? Look at what you've done with your ideas. Have you just sat there and just thought about them? No, you've actually executed them. Same thing with a young girl looking at us right now, a young man, even a mom. We have gotten so many messages from moms that wanted to pursue a business or wanted to write their own book. We've gotten approached by many women saying, siempre quise escribir un libro, I have the story, pero no sé cómo. ¿Cómo que no sabes cómo? You know what? All you got to do is sit down and start writing it.
Yep.
Don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about the next step, about the publishing or about the financing or about the support. Just the most important thing is to start writing. And once you start writing, the next step will follow. That's what happened with Anna and I. Right. We've never published a children's book. I've never written a children's book. We didn't even know on what doors to knock when it came to selling our concept to publishing companies. Like, how do we do that, right? And then the pandemic came, and it's like the publishing companies are not considering taking concepts at the time because of the pandemic. So we're like, well, what do we do? Well, let's self-publish. Well, what does that look like? Well, let's do the research. And it was scary, but you know what? It just un paso a la vez, step by step. But the most important thing is, for us, it was start writing, start drawing.
Right.
I'm convinced. JP, I'm off for the next 3 months, and I'm gonna write something.
Argelia, look what happens when we invite you. Now George doesn't want to record the podcast.
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
My co-host.
Well, there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
You will find the time. You will make the time.
Right. And I think the dynamic that both of you have is so important, because people often are very good at certain things, but then throughout the process, they note that, oh, no, wait, I'm not an illustrator. How did you both connect? I heard through a little birdie it was through social media, a DM.
Yeah, it was a DM.
But before we got to the DM, it was through her art that was gifted to me. I'm sure you've heard of Proyecto Pastoral, this amazing organization that caters to women in Boyle Heights. We're talking about women that need help because they're victims of domestic violence, they're homeless, they need a job, they need a career advice, and it's this amazing organization, and they do a women's conference every year, and I was invited to moderate that event. It was fantastic. You unite the professional women with the women that need that guidance, and here I am in the middle, right, making that conversation happen. But at the same time, at the end, they give me, as a thank you, icon moment, this art. And it was wrapped up in a box and stuff, and I opened it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It was a little girl with her own wings, right? And I'll share that with you too. And it was the famous quote from Frida Kahlo, feet for what do I need you when I have wings to fly? And it was just beautiful. And then I saw the signature, and it said Anna Alvarado. And I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. The next day, I gave it to my girls, by the way, because we had a little moment that night where, Mommy, why do you have to go again and talk to other people? You should be with us. And I told them this is very important, what I'm going to do. And I was so happy that I went because it connected me to Anna through her art. I showcased that piece of art on my Instagram. Her followers recognize it. They tag her. I'm like, oh, there she is.
Yeah.
I opened up her account, and it was like Anna's world just came to life. And I just, like we do today.
Yeah.
I DM'd her. Ding. And she responded like within an hour, I think.
Yeah.
You responded, and the rest is history.
How did it feel for you to get a DM from Argelia? What was that moment like?
You know what? It was interesting because the person that picked the gift for her, actually, I met her in the gallery. So through mutual friends that also happen to know Argelia, they were like, "Oh, this is a really big opportunity." And Roseanne, beautiful woman, Roseanne says, you could go to the event, you could meet her. And I said, if it's meant to be, I trust God's timing, it'll all work out. Well, the event came and happened. I was busy, had a prior commitment, couldn't attend it, missed it, but didn't feel like I had missed out on an opportunity. I really am a believer. If it's meant to be, God will just align paths and that person.
Yes.
So when I got the DM, it was like, okay, God. Like when you get a DM, it's very clear to me because of how I live my life. It was like God was sending me a DM, Argelia, you're going to meet with her. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go meet with her.
And for what, and for what? And when we met, it was for me to tell Anna that I have a project that I'm working on, which is this concept about writing a book about trailblazers, because my children weren't getting these stories at their school. So when I presented her the problem and how I wanted to contribute, but that I needed an illustrator to give life to this concept, she was like, I'm in. Like, because she had that in her mind too.
Yeah, and talk to me about that. It's such a big responsibility, right? Because we're talking about something that's not been done in the past. There's not so much content out there to help inspire the next generation of leaders in our community. How did that feel during this process? How was that? Was that like a big responsibility to not only be able to creatively this amazing result of your work, but was that like, I guess, did you feel like that when you were drawing it?
I was actually more concerned about what the kids were going to think about the art. I know that sounds crazy. I set out to draw each of the trailblazers and said, I'm not going to draw it exactly the way they look. I'm going to try to draw it in their, I'm just going to try to capture a bit of their spirit. If I could capture a bit of that and it's in their essence, I think I did a good job, right? That was it. And then the story art pieces, that was one where I thought, well, if this didn't have words, what do I want to leave the reader with? Where do I want them to go with this? So I had to create the dream, each dream for each of those trailblazers. As I would see it as a young girl, as I wanted others to come in, that was a little bit nerve-wracking. And I would tell Argelia, I'm stuck on the story art. But once I get the story art, once I can get the concept, everything else is like, it's kind of like a coloring book. right? I just got to sketch it out, lay it out, and then everything else will be easy. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's like, that feels like it's more work. And I'm like, no, the story, like the whole concept is the hardest part. That was nerve-wracking.
I think you did great staying in the lines and
Thank you.
using different
Stayed in the lines.
colors.
Thank you.
I think that part was great.
Right?
Let's say George is going to be occupied this weekend because
Yes.
he's going to have a nice book to look at.
I expect a full report, George, at the end of the week.
I think the next book we fill in the color.
Yeah. We definitely
The white
should
spots.
do that. Yeah.
You know what I'm hearing right now, and something that I'm appreciative of, especially I think the audience who's listening right now is definitely hearing your story, is not only that you had a dream, you took actionable steps, right? But also through that you had no's within there. And I think people look at the result and they go, oh, tan fácil es eso, like that's easy. I can never do that because they have all the connections. But you really went through it. You got no's, but you still went through it. My question to you is, how has faith played such an important role to get here? This is amazing.
Oh my gosh. Our faith. We believed in this project since day one. And we knew that it was going to happen. Like we felt it in our heart that no matter how challenging it got, because there were so many frustrating moments, you have no idea. To publish a book, to self-publish is an ordeal. It's especially when it comes from two people that have never ever self-published. Like I told you, I had published a book, but it was through a publishing company, so they took over. I just gave my story and I'm done, right? But here we're doing it all. I'm not only writing, she's illustrating. We're putting like guidelines of press releases together. We're talking to publishing companies. We're talking to
we're figuring out what fonts we want, the quality of
Copy.
paper,
Yes.
the cover. Yeah.
So it got. There were many moments of what are we doing here? And Nana knows this, and my husband knows this, and my girls know this. But there were many moments where I did fall on my knees, and I said, "Is this ever gonna really happen?" Especially when the pandemic came, because right when we were advancing, this situation stopped us on our tracks, and I honestly thought, this book is never going to see the day of light. And then my girls are going to be disappointed in their mommy. And I promised that I would deliver this book to them. So I'm going to have to go even to FedEx and just print the book just for them. Like that was my pressure because mommy has to deliver. And this happened in 2018 when Camila was in the 3rd grade, which she's the one that came to the house and said, Mommy, I have a school project and I get to give life to an iconic woman and I know who I want. And I saw the pre-selected list and I saw no Latina figures. Fast forward to 2020.
Yeah.
It's a pandemic and the book is just sitting there. So yes, I would see interviews of people fulfilling their dreams, and I would go in my closet and cry and ask God, what's next? Don't let me lose the faith on this one. What's next? Just show me the way, like, what do we need to do? And I hung on, and here we are. You know, I think he knew what was happening. Maybe it wasn't meant for us to publish the book with the certain company that we had reached out to. We questioned ourselves. Why isn't this happening this way? God knew when was the right time and with who.
Amen.
Amen.
Wow, chills. George, you got the goosebumps?
Yeah. I'm over here like, I don't know if it's just cold in here or I'm like.
No, thank you both for sharing. I think the impact of this interview will be seen not only within the immediate distribution of it, but for many years to come, because this is amazing. So many young people. For example, I'm going to give you a personal example. Growing up, we had to present speeches at our school, and you're right, that roster we were not represented within that roster. I was George Washington, I was Abraham Lincoln. You know, they didn't include anything of people that we could aspire to that are leaders in our community. So let me ask Anna this. Where do you think Granda's Dreamers will be in 5 years? What's the hope?
I think it will be a resource, if not something that will be modeled. It was important that we created something that was diverse and it highlighted our people in such a beautiful way, which is why it's so vibrant, which was why we paid attention to the quality of the book and the pages. We wanted our children, our readers, to feel like, yes, our people deserve this book, this quality, of a book. And so I feel that for the future, I see it as people saying, remember that book back then? Like, we should do something like that, but maybe with a different twist. You know what? We should do different stories. Oh, I love the artwork here. I love the way she wrote this. I want to be seen as a resource. I want to be seen. I want this book to be seen as something that will inspire future generations to say, like, yeah, I'm going to rise up. I'm going to use my voice. We talk about God and we talk about divine timing. But we also prayed, like, God, speak to our mind and our hearts. And I mean, for me, my prayer was like, Lord, just here, I'm just a vessel. Just use my hands. And however, I trust you and I'm going to go forward. And, you know, I shared earlier, I believe that when people are given gifts, I think we need to do right by those gifts. And we need to give back and move things in a positive, move them forward. Life gives us so many twists and turns and so many different trials. And this is a book of women's lives with twists and turns and trials who had to face adversity. And the way Argelia just wraps those stories around and weaves them in and then leaves you with this empowering, nice, like, nuggets there. You add the art. Of course, God's hands were all over this. It was meant to be.
And adding to that, when we got the book shipped to our house, we opened it at the same time. She was in her house, I was at my house. And we got the book and we just fell in love. 'Cause this is literally what we wanted, right? I went outside in my backyard and I literally, like, showed it to God and said, we've done the work. It's been a heck of a ride. It's been ups and downs, painful moments, you know, extremely difficult, but we did it thanks to you. Now it's up to you. You do whatever you want with it. Lead us where you want it to be placed. So to answer your question, 5 years, we want to see this book, God willing, in all of the schools of the country. For each elementary class to have this in their little corner library.
And
for
it
this
will.
story to be visible.
And it will. Affirmations, speaking into
I believe
existence. Yeah, I mean, you have a fan over there. He's going to buy 10.
I have a question, though, a serious one.
A ver, George.
Is this a volume 1 and there's going to be a volume 2? I don't know. I'm trying to get that inside scoop,
We got a super fan. We got a
I mean-
super fan
We
back
have a
there.
visionary,
Nice.
right?
Puede ser algo más grande, ¿no? Es grande.
Es
pero
grande,
puede ser
es
más
grande.
Se
Dreamers.
llama Grandes Dreamers, right? Well, you know what? It's interesting. Great question, George, because when we started to select the trailblazers for this book, like you said, JP, the list is long. So why haven't they been presented to us all these years?
Right.
We don't know why they were hidden figures, but the list was so long that we said, okay, we're going to choose 12, but then let's start thinking about volume 2 and volume 3 and
There it
volume
is.
4. So
Ahí
it
está.
will officially become a series.
Yeah, vamos.
I have a suggestion.
Oh, another one.
You know those birthday cards that pop up that the little man pops up or the decorations?
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Anna,
I'm
hello.
just
Have you been
I
watching
like
her
that.
work?
All right, so George is going to hop onto the project as a creative consultant
We
Yes.
want to hire him.
because he obviously has a vision here.
Right. When you're like, why is there boxes of Grandes Dreamer stuff coming to George?
Let me ask you one last question, Argelia. I think right now everybody's, your audience, people who follow you, they obviously want the best for you and your future. What's your message to them right now to never give up?
That the time is now. The time is now to start making those dreams a reality. We can dream all our lives, but if you don't move a finger, nothing's going to happen. So when people question my decisions lately of my career moves, it didn't happen overnight. It's because I have dreams. I have more dreams than just being a communicator and a broadcaster and an entertainer. I have Argelia Atilano, not the wife, not the mother, but Argelia Atilano, the Latina, you know, the girl from East LA. She has those dreams from way back in the day when she was 12, 13, 14, 15. So I can't forget that girl. And so that girl is still in here. And I know that everyone watching right now, don't forget about that girl in you and that boy in you. Don't forget about where life takes you, because you got to remember that little voice inside. That little girl is expecting you to fulfill those dreams. And that's what I'm doing right now. At age 46, I am finally pinning down many of my dreams from that wall, because I couldn't do it before. But I chose to own my time. I chose to own my voice. I chose to own my ideas, my concepts, my brand, so that I can make my dreams happen for me and for the future generations to come.
And you will, and you are, and that's why we're here. And I think that you being vulnerable and sharing is exactly what people connect with, and why people have connected with you and Omar for so many years and will continue to do so, because all that work doesn't go in vain, doesn't disappear overnight. You have generations that are thankful to both of you for not only waking up in the mornings and being entertaining, but also for the impact of amplifying stories. Never forget, obviously, many of you know my mom is attorney Jessica Dominguez, and Argelia and Omar opened a big, big door for my mom at the beginning of her career when no one wanted to believe in her. So number one, I'm thankful, but that ripple effect, you talked about it. This is the beginning. Boom, 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 boom. This inspires 30, 100 other books. I mean, mission accomplished, right? Thank you both for being here. Blessings to you both. Our team here at Oslo Media and Outside the Box feels so honored that you're here. George was fangirling. When is she coming? I don't just want to meet. Is Omar coming? But honestly, I was so nervous before this podcast. I got to be real, because we're next to someone who's given so much for so many years. And yeah, oftentimes people look at public figures as not human entities. And Argelia is as real as it gets. So, blessings to this book. Great present.
Yes.
If you're looking for something.
For the teachers.
Yes.
Right? You don't know what to give your teacher, of your the kids are always, Mommy, I want to give something to my teacher. Teachers want books. They always want books. This is a perfect opportunity.
There it is.
Send it over
Thank
here.
you.
The big bow, George.
Thank you both.
Thank you,
Thank
JP.
you.
Y'all both are amazing. Blessings.
Thank you for creating the space
Thank
for
you.
us to talk
Yes.
about our dreams and for us to present this beautiful passion project that came out of our heart. That's really where it's coming from.
Again, huge honor. For those of you watching, want to subscribe to this podcast, you can follow us on Spotify, Outside the Box, Second Take. Awesome interviews. If you want to follow these two really quickly, because I forgot, I'm going to get yelled at later. Where can people follow y'all, or both of you, on social media and the book?
Well, the book is super easy, grandesdreamers.com. You will find every single thing that you want to know about purchasing, and even our following. Our social media handles are all Grandes Dreamers. Simple as that. Argelia Atilano everywhere.
And art by Anna Alvarado.
There it is.
Wow. So special. I'm so glad. Make sure to go follow those social media pages, because they're updating daily. Also the events, book signings. If you're a professional right now in education, because I know we do have a lot of people who listen to this podcast in education, make sure to reach out. This is an amazing project, and this should be in schools all over the nation. I know my mom was someone who did the ESL program, and if she had a book like this, not only would it have helped her learn English better, but it would definitely inspire her into the professional she now is. We'll see you next time on Outside the Box.